We're gonna say farewell to the daylight and enter into the darkness. Yep, I found it. Okay, legs are starting to get numb. Oh, sliding. What a friggin' nightmare. It shows me almost paralleling it. Where the hell is it? This one's getting the best of me though. What the heck is this doing out here? I first discovered this branch line back in 2023 when I did the bike train from Whitehaven to Jim Thorpe, and along a section of the trail I came upon giant support columns and a pretty large bridge abutment. Well, with the help of some friends and doing some research, I did learn a few things about this line, and I'm wondering, here in 2025, what still exists of it today? Well, there's only one way to find out. So if you're as curious as I am to see what we're going to find down this direction, well, all you need to do is come along with me. Now, although we are heading in that direction, I just want to briefly show you that the line did cross from this direction. So it did cross over this road. The rail bed, rail line did continue in this direction. So although it does go that way, our main focus is this direction over here. Now, before we continue, to help you better understand what we're going to be looking at and what used to exist here, let me take a moment to tell you about the Hayes Creek branch line. Today we're documenting a section of the Lehigh Valley Railroad known as the Hayes Creek Branch. This line was built and started in 1911. It started by branching off the main line from Tannery, and the main line is now operated and used by the Reading and Northern Railroad. It was built primarily for the transportation of coal. The line was eventually discontinued in the 1960s and Lehigh Valley merged into Conrail in 1976. We're going to be starting off at the Lehigh Gorge Drive where the line would have crossed the road. We'll be heading east, following the rail bed until we reach Sandy Creek. There, the Lehigh Valley crossed over the creek on a bridge, and hopefully we'll see some ruins or remains of that bridge. The C&J Railroad, also known as the Central Railroad of New Jersey, also paralleled the LV, Lehigh Valley, for a bit of time along Sandy Creek, and may have even crossed over each other at one time. Once past the creek, we'll continue to follow the rail bed until we finally reach the bridge abutment I found while on the bike trail. Once we arrive, we'll stop and have some lunch, but along the way, I'll keep a close lookout for anything railroad related or otherwise that may catch our attention. Our journey officially begins here along Lehigh Gorge Drive, and right off the bat, there are a couple clues showing as to what used to exist here. Block of concrete here with some anchor bolts coming out. Probably had a signal on top of there. On the opposite side, a few discarded railroad ties. And then diagonal from that is a pile of material that was pushed here, and protruding out of it are rail ties. So we do have some clear evidence right off the bat that we are on the right path for the Hayes Creek branch line of the Lehigh Valley Railroad. Well, I have some good news and maybe some not so good news depending on how you look at it. The good news is that this is public game lands. We're allowed to be here, we're not trespassing, so there's not gonna be any issues walking the old line. The negative or not so good part is that there's a good chance mostly everything is gone since this is now game lands and a road for the hunting lands. So with that being said, I'm gonna have to really keep my eyes peeled, really keep my head on a swivel, and see if I can find the smallest of clues as we head back. Have a long ways to go. I think our best chance of finding anything is gonna be where we cross over the creek of some bridge abutment ruins or support columns. Beyond that, I think we may have a better chance of finding some more ruins, whether it be more ties, plates, spikes, J-hooks, maybe a section of rail or two, who knows. But obviously, when we reach our destination of the bridge abutment, we'll have a lot more evidence there. So we have a lot of ground to cover. Let's start moving. Oh, there's a fox. Just ran across the trail, and not sure if I caught it on camera. It stopped me, then it darted right across. So the bordering or neighboring property is private property. They have some signs and some purple paint, but that's not going to affect us. But I do see another clue beyond more ties, which are kind of featureless, but it's something. But right over here, just by where the fox ran, it looks like an old telegraph pole. And it looks smaller than usual. Let's see, yeah, there it is. I believe that's a telegraph pole. I do see the little post on there where they would have screwed onto it. Looks like I had 4 of them on there. So we may see more of those as we continue down. Absolutely gorgeous day here in March. Right now it's around 49 degrees, little to no wind, crystal clear blue skies, projected high of 60 degrees this afternoon. It's going to be an amazing day to check out and explore some old railroad history. And for the first time in a long time, I'm able to do this video, or a video, without having to wear a hoodie. I have a long sleeve shirt on, t-shirt underneath that. I have a feeling I might be ditching this long sleeve shirt a little bit later on. Of course, representing the none other than the PNC, PRR, Pennsylvania Railroad. Another insulator pole. That one actually has a glass insulator on it. Another clear indicator is the rail bed is still pretty much how it was. You can tell we are in elevation here above that property and above the woods here. So we are raised up like a ridge. It's flattened out, drops off both sides. I'm not sure how many lines came through here as far as like 1 or 2 sets of tracks. Looks like it's wide enough for 2. Maybe we'll figure that out. But unmistakable as a rail bed, and as we see further ahead, looks like a nice little tree canopy forming a tunnel as we continue straight ahead. That's like where we just came from, and terrain and landscape is changing a bit. We're now leaving the homes, we're past the private property area, and it's now primarily a wooded section. I do hear water off to my left, which I believe is Sandy Run Creek, which we did learn about that this line does or indeed crossed over it at one time. This is a nice area, quiet back here too. Now, I do have one major concern, and that is the Sandy Run Creek. As we learned, this line did cross over it on a bridge. As far as I know, that bridge is no longer there. I don't know if they replaced it with a vehicle bridge for the hunting grounds, or if there's a pedestrian bridge, or nothing at all. But we need to cross it in order for us to reach our destination of the bridge abutments near the Lehigh Gorge Trail. If there's no bridge, the only thing I can hope for is a downed tree or some big exposed rocks to be able to cross over it. Otherwise, I'm being forced to backtrack, and I don't know of another easier direct way for us to get there. So we'll find out shortly if indeed we can cross the creek and continue on our journey. That is where we just came from. And it opened up here for a bit. Got some power lines coming through. Sign just says closed to motor vehicles. And there is another parking area here, I guess during hunting season when the gate is open. And the gravel that we've been walking on officially ends here. Now, this looks a bit more interesting. This looks like a more rural rail bed. And it's dark back there. It goes back, sorry about that, I bumped the camera. It goes back there on a straight path directly in front of us, and it's heavily shaded from the trees. It looks a bit more exciting, a bit more opportunity to maybe find a few things because that road has not been cleared out like the one that we just walked in has been. So I think our odds are going to be in our favor that we may find something. But somewhere up there though, we're supposed to cross over the creek. We're going to say farewell to the daylight and the sunny skies and enter into the darkness. Wow, this is a stark contrast. It is really dark back here. Camera is actually brightening it up more than it is. Actually, I could adjust it and show you what it looks like here in real time. Yeah, that's what I see with my own eyes right there. I'm actually glad we're in a shady area now. It's getting pretty warm out there in the sun. I was getting ready to ditch the long sleeve shirt. Now, from what I could tell here, there's still no signs of rails or rail artifacts, just a clear defined rail bed. Occasional tie off to the side. I'm not going to bother showing those because we already know they're here. But I do want to find some new things beyond that and the telegraph poles, which if they do continue, we may have a better opportunity of maybe seeing one up close. But as we know, I'm very observant, so if there is anything out here, I'm going to do my best to find it for you. But this goes for a straight shot. Looks like several hundred yards. So it's going to be a nice featureless straight line. But just imagine back in the day of the coal trains coming through here, chugging down this straight path through the forest wooded section. And it would be a sight and a sound to witness in person. But as I like to do, I want to give you a moment of serenity just to take in the sights and sounds of exactly what I'm witnessing here in person, specifically on this nice straightaway here in this wooded section of the Hayes Creek branch. So I'm gonna shut my trap for a moment, just give you a slow pan around and allow you to enjoy what I'm experiencing here in person. Giving you guys a different perspective here, have you guys extended out a few feet. Allow you to see more of the surroundings behind me here. I'm not seeing any evidence of telegraph poles back here. Just the occasional tie, most of which are covered in nature's carpet. But we're on a plateau, obviously, for the rail bed. Off to my right, it's coming down at a slope. And then off to my left, obviously it's dropping down once again. I can even give you some, and I got a stick caught in my boot. Give you a couple different views here. Up high, right beneath the tree branches. And then even down low looking up. Make sure if you see anything too, you shout out and I'll take a look at it. Sandy Run Creek is down there to our left. It's kind of closing in a little bit. It's moving pretty good, making a lot of noise. There is a trail coming off here, which looks inviting. but maybe we'll check it out on the way back. I don't want to get to too many detours unless they're right on the main rail line here, because otherwise it could be a whole separate journey. Looks like further back here though, this trail is not used quite as often. There's a lot more tree fall, and the growth around here is enclosed a little bit more. But now this embankment on my left-hand side here, it's diminishing the sound of the water. It's getting really quiet, and there's still some ice back here too. Oh, we have an obstacle, so I guess we'll just go around it here. Oh, look what I found just by going around. What do we have here? Looks like some type of old sign. So this is the back of it. So we would be, let's see, come around here. This would be the front of it here. Wonder what that could have said. Now, if it had like a W on it for a whistle, that means it's nearing a crossing. We're getting away from the crossing back there where we started. Maybe it was something to signify the bridge coming up. But I'm pretty confident this is something from the old railroad days, and it's just hiding back here along the tree growth. Wouldn't have seen it if it wasn't for Mother Nature dropping that tree across the trail there. So as the old saying goes, some things happen for a reason. See the blue peeking through the trees there. It's definitely more dense back here. There's actually still snow on the ground. Snow and ice. It's about a ½ inch to an inch thick. Okay, I think we may have reached the supposed bridge crossing. Ooh, that is really slippery. Now I do see a trail going to the right. I don't think, but I'm not positive, I don't think that was the rail line. I'm thinking this is, but I don't have any certainty of that yet. But the water is definitely ahead of us and down there. So it makes me wonder, how big of a friggin' bridge was this? Because there's a big valley here. Well, if need be, I'm gonna pull up my location on the Railguide app and see exactly where I am, because this trail goes off to the right here. Actually, maybe here's the abutment wall right in front of us. Yep, I found it. This is where the line crossed. There's still a few ties here, but we have a jagged bridge abutment here made out of concrete, and that is a huge drop. Holy crap. And there is a support column there. It still exists. But the question is are we gonna be able to cross? That's a long ways down. Jesus, I didn't think it was that big. There's actually some artifacts down there too, so regardless, we're going down there. But I'm glad we found this. We now know exactly where this crossed over. Now there is a lip down here. That's about, actually, hang on. I brought one of my new toys with me, my laser measuring device. I could measure how far the drop is from here. As long as I can see the laser, then I'll be able to get an accurate reading. And that is 8 feet 9 inches from here to that lip. Now from here, see, it's gonna be hard to do another reading. Actually, I could do it over there. You won't be able to see it, but if I did it at an angle here, it wouldn't be accurate, but there is a straight drop off to the side here. So let me get that reading. You still there? So just holding it freehand a little bit above the lip wall to the very bottom is 22 feet. So it's a good drop. and then the terrain just keeps going down. So we have our work cut out for us. Still don't know if we could cross the creek. Fingers crossed that we can. Now, if we do reach our destination of the other abutment wall near the Lehigh Gorge Trail, you're going to see it's really similar in design with this jagged formation here. And it looks like there's possibly two crossings down there. I'd say it's going to be a 50-50 chance until we get a closer look at it that we're going to be able to cross. And if we do cross, we have to go back up on the other side. This is going to be more strenuous than I was anticipating, but the only thing we could do is tackle it head on and hopefully be successful in the end. Now, being Polish and German, that means I'm often a stubborn individual. And that could be a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. But the good thing is that I'm not one to give up easily. So if there is a way to do it, we're going to do it, even if that means possibly taking the boots off and the socks off, crossing barefoot. But now we're down here at the face of the abutment wall. So we'll be able to get a look at the face of it here and some of the, what I'm calling artifacts that are laying down below it here. Made completely out of concrete. Maybe we'll come across a date on the other end of it here. See, it is getting weathered away. Erosion. So there's the first plateau, the first lip that was 8 feet and some inches. And then from the top over there, shooting down, the lowest point was, I think I saw 22 feet, probably closer to 20. Got some pieces of lumber here, or ties, with some planks attached to them. Here's a bigger one. Not sure what this is. Oh, there's a tag there. I think this may be a washing machine or a dryer. Some old bottles here as well. So there's looking up. Really unique design. Yeah, so up on top of there, I was pointing down to around here, and although it was a bit of an angle, I'd say it was accurate reading is probably around 18 feet, give or take a foot. Now, in case you're wondering width, well, unfortunately, I can't do that with my device because of the obstacles in front of us here. I have to be stationary in one spot in order to get 3 accurate readings. And since this goes off at a curve on both sides and there's some obstacles here, I can't get a true accurate reading. But to guesstimate, I could give you that. I would say, let me look at it here. I'd say probably about 40 feet end to end, roughly. And right there in front of us is the giant support column, really similar in size and design to the one that's actually the few of them that are crossing over the Lehigh River. That is a large wall of concrete. Understandably, they didn't remove it because you can imagine the amount of work they had to go through to remove that large pillar. That's a solid concrete wall. Well, I have to be honest with you, my doubts are increasing that we're gonna be able to cross. It looks minuscule on Google Maps and on the Rail Guide app. It's just the narrow stream, obviously. And thinking Sandy Run Creek, it's just a small creek. It's bigger and wider than I thought it was gonna be. It's not looking good. But I don't want to speculate too far in advance until I actually get down there. But it's going to be a really steep, rather slippery descent. So I'm going to put you guys away, safely get down there, and then we'll assess the situation and go from there. But at the very least, I'm happy we found remnants of the old bridge. Or at least, yeah, it is remnants of the bridge. ruins, remains, remnants. At least we know exactly where it crossed. And it looks like it crossed a little bit at an angle, even though it's directly behind me. The pier or support column is over here, so it came over at an angle, which may contribute to that jagged design of that wall. Safely made it down to a lower area at least. And as you can tell, it's pretty cleared out here. Looks like a clear trail going through. Well, I think it's more than a trail. I don't have service right now to confirm it, but I think this might be the old C&J rail bed. As I explained earlier, I suspected that the C&J passed underneath the LV. And if it did, this looks like where it could have happened. Support column is there, abutment over here, and it's low enough and flat enough for a rail line to come through here. It was either here or it's a bicycle frame hanging right there. Welcome to Springville. Or it could have been on the other side. I don't know which side of the creek the C&J line would have been on. I want to say it was the other side, but again, this looks like a rail line to me. If not, it's just a coincidence then, but it is pretty flat, widened out. There's a lot of discarded things down here. There's some braided cable down here. Looks like part of an axle of a vehicle. A hanging bicycle frame, a bucket right here, a little tin bucket, which I think was maybe a candle. Yeah, citronella candle bucket. And the creek, which I'm not hopeful right now. And I don't like to say that. There are some narrower parts, and there's still ice along the edge, which means it's going to be frigid. But we're going to get down close to it. I'm going to check past the support column, see if there's anywhere that looks feasible, whether it's a shorter, shallower section. If not, we'll backtrack a little bit. I do see some areas where it looks like it could possibly be doable. But hopefully I'll confirm during editing if this is indeed the C&J line, or maybe if we do cross over, we'll get confirmation over there. Either way though, really fascinating area. Down here in a ravine, right by the creek. You're all by yourself down here. And definitely frequented by people because there's just random things discarded down here and hanging on trees. Welcome to Spring Cycle. This side it says Springville, the leaves are blocking it. Well, you can't imagine it now because it looks like a jungle, but back in the day, trains would have been passing directly overhead. And down here is just a lot of discarded timber and ties. Some more of those notched out pieces and the ones with the little sections on them. It's down here below this rock face. I think from here, I could probably give you a reading, at least from the base right here to the top. So we'll try and do that right now. So just understand, it's not gonna be the true bottom. It's only the bottom that I could see where the earth is piled up in front of it. The true bottom is down there in the water. Again, not completely accurate because of the situation and the conditions, but showing 32 feet. So roughly, I would say from where I was measuring, it's going to be off by a foot or two. Down by the water, it's going to be lengthier, so maybe another 8 to 10 feet to it. So roughly 40 feet in height. What do you think? Does this not look like a rail bed? I think it does. But now we're gonna snake our way down here near the edge of the water. And from what I could tell, this is more like a raging river. Well, we're at the base of it. And that is a torrent of water. I was not expecting to come across this. I was expecting a little tiny creek, not this. Now, up ahead, it looks a bit tamer, and I do see some of the, like the ground is more exposed over there. So we're gonna go to the other side, check over there. But right here, definitely not doable. It looks like it's deep, fast moving, and that is just bad news written all over it for these conditions and the temperature of the water. It looks maybe passable here, although it's still a few feet deep. I can at least see where my feet are going. I think that's gonna be over my knees though. But it looks like this is a type of crossing at some point, probably when the water's lower. That might be a possibility. I'm really not liking this though. There are some boulders up here. Let's see if they look like an option. Boy, this is a unique landscape. There's a big rock outcrop coming right out of the water there, forming like a wall. But definitely can't pass here. And even getting out onto the water is not going to be easy here because I have to step on this ice, and if that collapses in, I could fall. Oh, is there a tree up there? Oh, that looks somewhat doable, although I'm not great at stuff like this. I definitely know Bear Grylls. The only really problem I see is that piece sticking out right there. I don't think I'd be able to get around that. It may or may not break off. But I could at least kind of straddle it and get across. But with my camera gear though, I don't know if it's worth the risk. I'm trying here, but this is definitely a much bigger obstacle than I ever imagined. As I said before, if the conditions were different, where it was warm out, like summertime, wouldn't be an issue at all. That looks to be a pretty deep hole right there too. I can see rocks protruding. That's at least 6 feet deep. This is one of those cases where I'm so close, but yet so far. I can see where I need to go. The elevation's picking back up. The rail line is somewhere over there. But there's a formidable obstacle in front of us here. I don't have a problem with my feet or legs getting wet. I mean, I can handle cold pretty well. I'm just worried about slipping out. And the water's moving pretty fast. I don't think I would get carried away too far, but it's not a waterproof bag. And although I have a waterproof bag at home, I didn't bring it because I didn't think it would be like this. I'm gonna take a few moments to myself here, see what my best plan is gonna be. I'm 60-40 on wanting to cross, but I don't know if it's gonna be the right move or not. I'll be back with you in a moment. I have assessed the situation and I still don't know what I'm doing. I walked further up the creek, came through a nice ice fall area. That tree, if that tree is laying across here, I could at least hold my hand on the tree and walk across. It's not that deep here. That would be ideal if that tree was all the way across. But unfortunately, it's not the case. Steep rise in elevation though, if I do cross anywhere over here. I'm trying to find like the more practical route. Here's another tie right here. Surprised it's this far over. There's a lot of down trees. I'm gonna go a bit further upstream. Maybe I'll get lucky and find a tree crossing or some larger boulders that are close together. But I did find one area that looks like it is doable. So I think one way or the other, we are gonna cross over. I just wanna stay as dry as possible. I think I may have found the best of the worst. It's not that fast here. It's relatively shallow. It's relatively narrow. It's about 40, 50 feet up from that ice wall I showed you. The only negative part is once I cross, it's a super steep climb to the top. And it's gonna definitely take a bit out of me. But I don't think I have much other choice. And this is gonna be one of those circumstances where I'd love to leave you guys and cross over so you can see the action. I don't wanna cross this more than I have to, so I'm gonna have to bring you guys along with me. But I'm gonna take my boots off, roll up my jeans, and we're gonna try to get across here one way or the other. Hopefully we stay dry. Wet feet, they'll warm up as we start moving again. I don't wanna fall over and get my clothes soaked because it's not that warm out yet. It's still only in the 50s. It's gonna be painful as well with the rocks. Whew. We're gonna do this. These rocks are so painful. Haven't even gotten in the water yet. I'm right at the edge here. Trying to look for my best course of action. There's a little bit of a deep pocket right in front of me here. It does shallow out from there until I get to the big rock. Once I get there, I can sit on it, put my shoes back on, my boots. I'm not gonna be dramatic, but it's gonna be cold. All right. Oh yeah, it's cold. I don't know what's worse, the cold or the rocks. A little bit of a current. I could feel it pushing against me, obviously. Thankfully, they're not all algae, so they're not super slippery, although I just slid off that one. Okay, legs are starting to get numb, but I'm more than halfway across. Ooh, sliding. Whew. Losing feeling in the feet now, but I'm almost here. Just to show you, I am indeed standing barefoot in the water. I just have to get to right there. Sliding. Ooh. Rocks are so painful. Wow. I don't want to slide out, but I think I got a decent footing here. Okay. Whew. Okay, just gotta get on this rock and then we're home free. Lost you guys there. All right, we're out of the water. Back on dry ground, my feet are aching. Wow. Okay, I'm gonna sit here in the sun, let them dry out for a bit, and then we have a heck of a hill to climb. I'll see you at the top of there once I catch my breath. It's gonna be strenuous, but I told you, I'm stubborn, I'm determined. We just crossed Sandy Run Creek barefoot. Hopefully it was worth the effort. Oh, what a friggin' nightmare. Oh, I'm exhausted. That was one of the worst things I ever had to climb. Gave me flashbacks of my old days back at the Glenburn mine in Shamokin, climbing up to the tipple. Climbing on thick leaves on a steep ascent is very similar to climbing up a shale and comb mountain. You just keep sliding, hard to gain traction. Had to take a few breaks along the way, had to shed a layer. Nose is running, sweaty, tired, thirsty, hungry. I'm a mess, but we have made it to the other side. I'm gonna pull up, I actually have service here. I'm gonna pull up myself on maps and see exactly where I am. I wanna backtrack a little bit to where the train would have crossed because we're inwards further now than we normally would be. And let's see. Yeah, we're actually not even on the rail line right now. This is just like a field up here. Might be outskirts of someone's property, but we're going away from it. So we need to go in that direction. And see, I'm looking on the rail guide app because I was mentioning earlier, I think I found the CNJ rail bed. It's weird. It shows the CNJ on the other side of the river, the creek, but it shows another line there called the Drifton branch, which looks like that's what we found. Looks like Drifton branch was part of the CNJ. There may have actually been 2 lines of the CNJ. CNJ shows up as a dark blue line on the other side of the river. The Drifton branch shows up as like a dotted line, but it's in the exact spot of where we were walking down there. I said, this looks like a rail line or a rail bed. So I'm not 100% certain on that as to what the Drifton branch is, but it looks like it's a part of the CNJ. Maybe another spur or branch line. I'll have to do maybe a little bit of digging on that. Thanks to the help of Google. I just searched Drifton Branch Railroad. It says it was a railroad line built in 1893 by the Central Railroad of New Jersey, CNJ. Ran from Whitehaven, which we're not too far from, through Pond Creek and to Upper Lehigh. The branch was abandoned in 1934. So, learned something new on the spot. I thought there was just 2 lines, the LV, which we're following, and the CNJ, which kind of paralleled it. There was another line called the Drifton branch. That is 100% what we found that we were standing on near that citronella bucket next to the support column. That was the remnants of the Drifton branch. I may have to come back in the future and document that, since we know that that is a line that isn't so well known and was built in 1893. So it's got some history to it. And I'm going to say in advance, yes, I could have done more research to find out what was involved, but as I've explained time and time again, I like to come to these places and experience things in the moment. I don't like to be spoiled of what I'm going to be encountering. Yes, I did research on the line, but I didn't do research on the landscape. I just knew there was a creek to cross. Little did I know it was in a huge valley. Creek was faster and bigger than I thought it was going to be, and the climb back up was worse than I could have imagined. But enough complaining. Gonna get a few more minutes of rest, backtrack, pick up the line again, and continue to our destination. I rose up way off course. That field area brought me pretty far away. That's just where I climbed up above the creek. Traveling through pretty dense woods here. And if it wasn't for the GPS and the rail guide app, I don't think I'd be able to find where I have to go. But according to the technology, I should be approaching the line any moment now. What still doesn't even look plausible because we're pretty far in from the creek. And that's a big drop off down there. I don't know if there's another column somewhere that would have supported the bridge going over the land here. But so far, I don't see anything. Kind of dumbfounded right now. I'm gonna check again because this doesn't look anything like a rail line. Yeah, it shows straight ahead in that direction. I should come to something like an abutment wall or something because it came across at an angle as we discovered when we were down below the column. And The creek is pretty much straight ahead down there. The only thing we could do is keep going, keep checking GPS, but it shows maybe 50 yards ahead, but I don't see anything. But maybe it's hiding in plain sight. Do you see anything? Because I definitely don't. I see some large rocks up here, but nothing man-made. Where the heck is it? Something doesn't add up here. I don't see anything except forest and woods. Some toppled trees, some big boulders, but I don't see a rail bed. I don't see an abutment wall. I don't see a support column. I don't see anything. Where the heck did it go? Is this a phantom rail line on this side? Am I missing something? I'm dumbfounded. I don't know what happened. Something's not adding up. I should have came to the line already. Let me try using Google Earth and see if I could find it on the older maps maybe. Let's see. Good thing I have service here, otherwise I'd be wandering around aimlessly, even more so than I am right now. Where the heck did I go? I might be lost. I'm in state game land still, but I can't even see the rail line. Let me go back to my starting point, trace inwards and see where the heck I came, because I am off course pretty good. Okay, I was worried for a second that I went way off course by multiple miles. So coming up where I did definitely threw me off. I came up farther away than I was anticipating, but I'm not that far away from a rail line. I do see my dot on Google Earth. I'm looking at a 1999 screen image where I can still see the rail bed, and it shows it should still be in this direction. I'm guessing when it crossed, it went at more of an angle than I thought it originally did. So if we keep going in this direction, we should run right into it, according to technology. Hopefully it doesn't let me down, but this is definitely turning out to be a much longer undertaking and a somewhat frustrating journey, but it is all part of the experience. I'm still having a good time. I just envisioned things going a little bit differently when I started this journey a few hours ago. I think I'm making progress. Still wandering in the right direction. Still haven't come across anything, but the landscape is changing. We are now dropping in elevation where it seemed significantly higher than the rail line would have continued on. And it looks like there might be a drop off up here, so we may be closing in on it momentarily. Ooh, I'll tell you what, these leaves are several inches thick, and there's a few times I lost my footing and either slid or just got tangled up on some branches. This put me behind about a good half an hour. Not only the delay with trying to cross the creek, which was about half an hour there until I finally crossed it, but coming up significantly further away than I was expecting. So I'm already an hour kind of behind schedule, although I don't have a schedule, but it's just delaying it that much more. All right, so we're starting to drop in front of us here. I don't see anything yet. Tell me this is not just false hope. I think Mother Nature's playing tricks on me. Where the heck did it go? I would have walked into it by now. And the strange thing is I keep checking both Railguide and Google Earth, and it shows me just inching closer, 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 but not getting significantly closer to the line. It's almost like the more I walk, the farther away it's getting. It doesn't make sense. I don't see any sign of man back here. No stone walls, no abutments, no columns, no rail ties. Just featureless woods, and then it goes back up over there. It drops down in front of us here, and then it rises back up over there. I thought by now we would have been there. Now I could see how people get lost in the woods. Even with technology, like granted, if I had a true GPS device, that would be different, but I'm usually pretty good at sense of direction. But I will be honest, this one has me at a loss right now. Once again, gonna check my position. I'm already 3 hours into this and haven't even reached the destination yet. Haven't even picked up the other side of the line. It shows me almost paralleling it. Where the hell is it? Yeah, it shows me paralleling it. Even though I'm walking towards the direction it's showing me to go, it's showing me paralleling the line. What's going on here? I don't know if it's Mother Nature or technology. It shows me going this way, and I've been going this way the entire time, just at an angle. So I mean, maybe I inadvertently kind of went off course, not paying attention, but I've been checking frequently. The only thing I can do now is just go according to the arrow, straight behind you guys. And I don't know what to do at this point. I can't turn back now. I'm too far into this. I don't even want to cross the creek going back. I'm going to find another way back. It may even be a multi-mile journey when this is said and done, but at this point I'm too dedicated, I'm too involved, I'm too far in to turn back now. I'm just confused right now. I probably look like an amateur to some people, but this doesn't happen often. Those who've been with me for a while usually know I'm pretty on target with things. This one's getting the best of me though, but like I said, I'm stubborn. I'm not giving up. I hope I'm not losing my mind, but I think I found it. When I climbed on top of the mountain and came to that field, took a break there, I imagine I was about 5 minutes away from walking to the other abutment wall. We're now over 20 minutes into this, if not longer, probably closer to 30 minutes. And it turns out I was paralleling the line, not getting closer to it, just walking alongside of it further away. So we were up there, not making much progress. Finally, the GPS kind of corrected itself, showing the direction my phone was pointing. And it showed behind you guys at that last segment. Well, I think we arrived officially. Not only with visual confirmation, we're gonna double check that on the phone as well. Does that look like a rail line to you? I believe it does. This is it. We picked up the other side, and this looks even more rural and untouched like the other section we saw. There's a bunch of ties here off to the left there. I'm gonna backtrack, show you the other side where it would have crossed over. I hear water down to the left. There's some finely crushed coal on the ground. And we are a heck of a ways up above Sandy Creek. Obviously I have to backtrack all the distance I went the wrong direction on, so let me get up there. We'll show you what it looks like and then continue in that direction. Definitely putting in the footwork today. I'm gonna feel it tomorrow. It's one of the times that stubbornness and determination has paid off, because we arrived at the other abutment wall. There's even a little fire ring here. So this one, unlike the other one, is flat. It's not jagged. There's some ties down there. I can see the lip below me here. The river, or the creek, is over there. This was a huge bridge back in the day. Looking at it on satellite images, I never would have guessed. I would say easily over 100 yards, which is 300 feet. And I don't know if there's an official name to this bridge. We know that this is the Hayes Creek branch, but I don't know if this bridge had a name. But maybe those of you watching are familiar with this area, or have done any research on your own. If you happen to know any specs about that bridge, like the name, date, length, by all means, let us know down below. If I wasn't so far behind on time, I would go down there and investigate, see if there's anything other than just those ties. But honestly, at this point, I just want to reach the destination. So we now know from Lehigh Gorge Drive to the bridge abutment, we covered that. We took the scenic route, putting it mildly, up and around, and came down, backtracked to the other side of the bridge. So the only thing we couldn't cover was the middle section. Honestly, where I rose up above that field, if I made a sharp right and came down, I probably would have came down somewhere over here. Or if I crossed the creek where I wanted to, I would have came up right here. That's not how things turned out, but we may do. As far as I know, we should have no more major obstacles. This was the big hurdle, which was really time consuming. I'm over, all said and done, going down the bank, assessing the river, crossing the river, I should say creek, and then finally picking up here. I'm about an hour and a half into it. Just that part alone, which means we didn't cover a whole lot of ground. It was just human error. I screwed up on that one. I will definitely take blame for that. And if it wasn't for me having GPS, I don't think I would have found the line. I just would have been wandering aimlessly, maybe stumbled into it or onto it further down. But I definitely made things more difficult than I had to, but that's the way it goes sometimes. So I'm gonna start trekking ahead, keep my eyes peeled. I know there's a lot of ties along the way. If we find any insulators, anything else other than what we haven't seen so far, I'll bring you back aboard. Otherwise, once we do start approaching our destination of the bridge abutment near the Lehigh River, that's where we're gonna stop. We're gonna have lunch, and I'm gonna tell you some more information about that section of line and show you where it crossed over there. Although I come across plenty of fallen trees, there's also a lot of trees that are cut. So it appears that this is somewhat maintained. And you know what stands out to me? Other than just a beautiful landscape, is that this would be an ideal trail for an e-bike. If I had easy access to this, without a doubt, I would bring my e-bike and cruise on this trail. A few obstacles with down trees. Other than that though, it's pretty open, pretty compacted, and pretty gorgeous. We're now away from Sandy Run Creek and away from any evidence of the rail line other than the rail bed that we're walking on. I'm not seeing any telegraph poles. Maybe one or two that were cut laying down, but nothing attached to them. A few ties here and there. Other than that, just this culm material on the ground, not even ballast, it's just soft, silty culm. Probably what flew off on the trains when they were traveling. Built up over time. But I'll tell you what, I've said it before in a recent video and a video last year, certain locations make you feel vulnerable and exposed. This is definitely one of them. And it's not by any means a negative thing. It's just you're out here by yourself. You're not terribly far from civilization, but you're far enough away that you're on your own. You can get lost, but if you were just to keep following this, or obviously the creek, it would eventually take you to civilization, but you are rather alone and exposed if you do think about it. But it's kind of peaceful, it's calming, definitely beautiful. And on a day like today, there's no wind, no clouds, just an airplane flying overhead, and an occasional pile of nature's raisins on the ground, and even some bear poop. Not a bad way to spend your Monday afternoon. I do have another video planned for today, hoping that still happens. I get back in a timely manner. The good thing is now we're just past the daylight savings time change, so now it gets dark an hour later. So at least now I have that on my side, where the past few months it was getting dark by 5 o'clock and something that had to cut short. I don't know how much farther we have to go, but each footstep is a step closer to our target destination. And I'll tell you what, putting in the footwork today, as I said, burning quite a few calories, worked up a good sweat. And typically I only bring like a small snack with me, maybe like a pack of jerky or a Snickers bar. I'm glad I brought something more substantial because I definitely need to refuel. Otherwise, I might wither away and lose this dad bod. So, got to keep it going. Just bringing you back for an update. That's looking where we just came from. And as you may be able to tell, looking that direction and this direction, the line is going around at a gentle sweeping curve to the left, which is good news because that means we are ever so close to our abutment wall near the Lehigh Gorge Rail Trail. Still got a little bit of distance to go, but we're definitely more than halfway there. And I'm expecting it to be under half an hour for me walking, hopefully closer to 15 minutes. And you can also tell landscape is a little bit different. We have a type of a rock cut, even though they are farther away. But I'll tell you what, the ground though is so nice to walk on. It's so soft. This coal material is just like a sponge, almost like nature's carpet. It just sinks in about half an inch. So it's kind of cushioning on the feet. A couple more ties there as well. I'm surprised though that there's nothing back here. We saw more on the opposite end of the river. I keep calling it river because it looks like a river, the creek, than we are finding over here. And here's what the trains would have been hauling. Anthracite coal, also known as the Black Diamond. It's really light for the size of it. That's what the steam locomotives would have burned, and that's what they would have hauled to market once extracted out of the ground. Do you hear that? Listen. There is no sound at all other than just a slight breeze coming through here. It's really, really quiet. Gorgeous area for sure. Past the rock cut area, and now the landscape has dropped off to our right hand side. And our left hand side, it's still a hilly terrain. Now, one thing I am wondering is, depending on when the state took ownership of this land, was the rails and everything ripped up prior to that? Or did the state do that? I don't have that answer, but that is something I did wonder. I actually see a trail blaze here. There's orange markings on this tree. And then on the tree over there is a trail going up in that direction. Probably a hunting trail. We did pass, I didn't show it on camera, a road coming down a bit of a ways back. I looked up on GPS, and that is just an access for the game lands. I think there's another parking spot further up. There's just another road coming down meeting up with this. So there is definitely access in more than one area. But for the most part back here, it's the rail line is the main trail. And then you have little secondary trails like that. And I'll tell you what, coming through here in the fall season would be phenomenal. I don't know if I'll return because this was a great deal of effort to get here, but to see where we're walking all lined with the changing color leaves would be a sight. Be nice if they would change this into like a section of rail trail, but since it is game lands, that's not going to happen. But at least we can still walk, trek on it, and enjoy it for what it is. Feels like I've been walking forever. Kind of have been. Brought you back for an update because I finally came upon something of remains and ruins. Nothing significant, but something is better than nothing. So right here is a round ring made out of concrete. It's got a post coming out of it, which I don't know if that's supposed to be there or not. So that is one thing. Then we have a concrete base with a steel platform bolted to it. And most likely with some type of signal. So that's the only thing we've come across so far that I spotted other than rail ties since we picked up with this side of the line on the other side of Sandy Creek. So things are far and few between out here. Pretty much you're out here to enjoy the environment, take in the scenery, the surroundings, be out here to enjoy the silence, and to know that you are walking on a piece of history. I do hear running water off to my left-hand side. And there's water on the right-hand side. There might be a culvert beneath us. Yeah, there's water coming out down there. Is there a culvert? There has to be. I think so. Where's the water going? You know what? It's just like a culvert pipe. It's not like a real big stone culvert. I can see down there as I zoom in, if I could get the right setting on the camera. Yeah, the water's flowing right there, and I think there's just a small pipe. I thought for certain there was like something big that we could explore, but yeah, that's all it is. Sounded more impressive than what it actually looks like. Ah, may have found a keepsake. Look at this. Oh, that's stuck in the ground. I thought it was just laying there. Huh. That looks like a section of narrow gauge or small gauge rail. That's protruding out of the ground though. I thought it was a cut piece just laying there. I was like, oh, I could take that as a keepsake. Oh well. Oh, I hear and see water again. This time, there might be a more proper culvert beneath us here. Let's take a little glance down there and see if we could see where that water is going. Yeah, once again, just a really small culvert drain. But that tributary looks really nice. It's cascading down from higher up. And that must come out somewhere near the Lehigh River onto the rail trail, which is the former CNJ line. Yeah, unless it's hidden by something down there, I don't see anything large enough to go through. Came to a bit of a junction here. We just came from that direction. That direction there is a trail kind of going up towards that tributary. There is private property up there with a posted sign. The rail line continues straight ahead, although it is kind of not the best conditions. And there's a little path coming out this way, which may just go around that. So I guess we'll just follow this to get around that debris pile and pick back up with the rail line. And if I stay quiet, you may be able to hear people down there either walking, running, biking, or rafting. I'm not sure. But I do hear people down there. I can actually see the trail from here. All right, this trail is leading me away. I don't want to be on this. I think this is going to take me down to the rail trail. I need to get back up on top here. I thought it was just a diversion. It's a whole nother direction, so. This is a pretty rough area for what we're dealing with here. Comparatively speaking, where we came from was really well manicured, and here it looks anything but a rail line. We're back on the rail line. That's the direction we were coming from. Looks quite a bit different here. Ooh, I just crushed right through on a piece of ice. Oh, just did it again. This ground is partially frozen. It's weird how it went from what I'm calling a manicured trail down to this. There's a tie right here. All there is just that little side trail going away from here. But it looks like it does get a bit better further up. Over here you can see the abundance of nature's carpet covered ties. Are you kidding me? What the heck is this doing out here? I've said it time and time again, the strangest things you find in the woods. A frickin' toilet. What is that doing out here? It's in such a strange location. Porcelain throne. Well, when nature calls, do it in nature. That is so bizarre. It either had to have been carried in, or maybe a ATV just brought it here randomly and dropped it off. That is a strange one. Can't flush it. Must be one of those compost ones. No toilet paper, but you have nature's carpet and some leaves if you have to use it. I think that'll make for a good photo opportunity, so stay tuned later on at the end of the video. You may or may not see a picture of me sitting on that. Are you still with me? I hope so, because we have arrived. We are now approaching the top of the bridge abutment that I explored in the clips I showed you in the beginning of this video, and what enticed me to trace this line. What a sight for sore eyes. As I explained, really similar to the first abutment we came upon earlier in the video. This one has the jagged edges on it. And if I'm not mistaken, I believe 2 lines came across here. There's one support column there, one in the river, and I believe 1 or 2 on the other side. And this is looking down. Got the lip again, much further drop. The rail trail's right down there in front of the column, which is the former CNJ. And riding that trail from Whitehaven to Jim Thorpe is what allowed me to discover this. But now that we arrived, that can only mean one thing: lunchtime. So just to show you what I brought with me here, I got water to boil. I have my little camp stove in here. Fuel, my pot, and utensils. And for lunch, on the menu today is by Alpine Air, Leonardo de Fettuccine. It's a different brand. I have tried one of their other meals before. They are pretty good. The only downfall is that they don't last as long as, say, I think it's Mountain House, I think it is. They last much longer as far as expiration date. This expires later this year, where a lot of the Mountain House ones go for over 20 years for expiration. It says creamy cheese, sour cream sauce with pasta, broccoli, and mushrooms, accented with garlic and onion. I like all that except the mushrooms, but hopefully I won't even know they're in there. Just got to add water, it'll cook, and we can enjoy. I also got my dude wipes too, get the hands clean. I did bring a Walmart bag to put trash in, and I also do have dessert with me too, which I'll show you that once the time comes. But I need to get some water boiling first. While it's boiling up, just wanted to show you the contents inside. See the pasta in there? It actually smells really, really good. It's calling for 2 cups of water, 16 ounces. I'm putting a little bit less than that. I've learned from experience and from others that usually adding the amount that's specified turns it more into like a soup rather than what it's supposed to be. So add a little bit less, it'll thicken up, be more as to what it's supposed to be. A little bit breezy here, so we're losing some of the heat, but it'll get the job done. Think we got a boil. Seems like even that may be too much water. Hopefully this does its magic and absorbs it all. All right, give it a good mix. Gotta seal it up and let it sit for about 10 to 12 minutes. It's 2:30, holy cow. All right, so I'll check that out about 2:42. Being 2:30 is not a bad thing, but when you look at it in the bigger picture, it's 2:30 and we just got here. I started just after 11 a.m. This is gonna be a long day. So I have to backtrack the whole entire way that I came here. And unless I cross the creek, which is the most direct route, if I take a detour, it's gonna take even longer for me to get back. I think I got it in over my head on this one, but it's a gorgeous day. I can't really complain too much. I'm out doing what I love. Have all of you with me too, so I'm not completely alone. And I'll feel much better once I have some food in my belly. So I'll let this cook. We'll try the first bite together. I'll enjoy that. And then I do have some Peak Refuel peanut butter chocolate chip cookie bites. So meal, dessert. Then I will share some additional thoughts about where the line went from here. Show you some more map images as well. And then I have an ever lengthy trip back to where I began. Without a doubt, I could have cut this video down much shorter than what it already is, but this is a unique journey where things didn't go according to plan. Things kind of went off course. I went off course, literally and figuratively. And I just wanted to show you kind of what happens when these sort of things happen, which is not all that often, which is a good thing. But when it does happen, this is what you have to contend with. You have to use technology if you have it on hand with the signal. You have to pay attention to your surroundings. You have to navigate waterways and see the safest, most effective way across. There's a lot of challenges we face today, but I think we face them all safely and effectively, just very time consuming. But it's better than getting hurt or getting lost or not reaching our destination. So look on the bright side. Could be worse, could be better, but it definitely could be much worse. Well, it's 2:42. Oh, it feels firmer. That's a good sign. All right, it thickened up nicely. I was a bit concerned there at first. Oh, it smells really good. You saw what it looked like before. Here's what it looks like now. So I'll give it an official first taste test here. It's hot. That's actually pretty good. It's creamy. Can't really go wrong with pasta and cheese and other ingredients. This will be filling for sure. I won't even probably finish half of this. I still have dessert as well, so I'm going to eat what I can of this. Probably leave the rest out here for an animal. I'll just take the packaging with me. And then we'll have a few peanut butter and chocolate chip bites. And I think by then, I'll be ready to walk everything off. I have to say, for an abutment wall, made for a pretty good kitchen countertop. Starting to get pretty full, so I'm going to stop on the pasta. Try one of these freeze-dried premium cookie bites. As far as you know, you just rip it open and enjoy them. Moisture packet. Yeah, it's just little cookie bites in there. So that's what they look like. Just like a dry, crunchy cookie. Not too bad. It tastes like if you made cookies at home and left them out on your counter for a day or two. You know how they harden up? They still got the good taste and flavor to them, just the texture is different. I'd get these again. Peanut butter, chocolate chip. If you got a sweet tooth for trips or journeys like this, I think it's a good buy. Now, although we're stopping here today, the Hayes Creek branch obviously did not stop here. As I did explain and illustrate earlier, this abutment was put in place so that the train tracks could cross over the Lehigh River. Down in front of us here is one support column right by the trail. There's one or two in the river and then one or two on the other bank. So the tracks came across this over the CNJ, over the river, and then not through the woods, on the other side of what is now the active main line of Reading and Northern. So once it crossed over there, the line curved left and headed towards what is called Tannery. And there was a switch where the Hayes Creek branch met up with the now current owned and operated Reading and Northern main line. Now, when you really do think about it and you put it into further context, back in the day, at a certain point, this area was a pretty busy hub of train traffic. Trains coming across here on the Hayes Creek branch, trains running directly beneath us on the CNJ line, and trains running on the other side of what is now the Reading and Northern main line. So this would have been a site to be at back in the day when everything was up and operational. And there's the leftover food. So leaving that for the animals. I ate less than one serving. It just got really filling really fast. And I wanted to save room for those cookie bites. I got all the garbage packed up here. I'm going to take that with me. I'm going to pack everything back in the bag. Then I'm going to make the not so exciting journey back to my starting point. I'm not filming anything along the way unless something was to happen, but I'm going to let you know when I get back to show you how much time has passed from where we started to, we knew we got here after 2 o'clock, ate dinner around 2:45. We'll see what time it is when we get back. It's going to be a long day. My feet are going to be aching, but all I could ask is that I hope you appreciate the effort, and I'm glad that you're along for this adventure. Well, we're back, and for pretty good reason. So right up there is the abutment wall, the one that we were walking away from. So going that direction is where we had lunch. This is where we get stopped for the abutment. The other abutment that we started from is over there, but look what I found here. Wrapped around this tree is a steel braided cable. Not only one, but two. I think this is crossing for the creek. And I think I'm going to use it because I don't want to take my boots off again. I don't want to get my feet wet. Unfortunately, I can't film, obviously, while I'm doing this because I'm going to have both hands tied up and my feet. And this is probably my first time doing something like this, so I don't know how well it's going to go. But I don't really see any other option. So hopefully, I'm trying to see where this bottom one goes. It goes into that debris pile there. I don't know where it goes from there. I don't know, I may have to hang or get my feet wet just to reach the other side. But once I reach the other side, the drifting branch that we talked about is right up there. So I'm not far away from where I need to be. I just have a pretty major obstacle in front of me. So I'm gonna scout the area briefly, see if there is another alternative. If not, I think I'm gonna have to give this a go. May or may not end up with wet feet. Unfortunately, I don't have anything with me right now to mount you guys to film as I do this. So whatever happens, I'll have to come back and explain it to you. But I don't know how long it's been here, but it's been a long time because the tree is growing right around it. Would you guys cross this if you had to? This seems like something from Indiana Jones. Oh, I guess time will tell. I may return to this and give it a go. Well, I am definitely out of my comfort zone doing this for the very first time. I am crossing via cable, and I'm right here in the middle of the river. This is an experience, to say the least. There's the big bridge support right there, right in front of us. Water's moving pretty fast. There's a big rock right there, and then we have to continue crossing. The cable's there, but it's bending away, so it's going to be a little dicey past this point because the cable is wedged, and I'm going to be kind of leaning forward against this. My feet are going to be behind me. They may or may not get wet, and if I fall in, I'm getting swept down the river. I don't know if this was a good idea, but at the time it seems like the best idea to avoid having to walk on those icy cold rocks again and beat my feet up. Halfway there, halfway to go. I'll see you on the other side. Oh boy, was that dicey, but I made it. I am successfully on the other side here. You see where it's tied off to this tree here, the upper one and the lower one down there. Nerves were at a pretty good high. It worked as it's supposed to. Thankfully, I have gloves on. I was just rubbing against the cable the whole time. Had pretty much a white knuckle grip on it in case my foot slipped off. I wasn't gonna go all the way and I could still hold myself up. The hardest part though is getting over that fallen tree because as I was moving on it, it was rocking like this, like tilting back and forth. And it's also damp and slippery. So before that, after that, wasn't that bad. Just getting over that debris pile was the worst of it, but thankfully I found that, and thankfully we're on ground, so kinda. I'm on ice right now. A couple more footsteps, and there, now we're on ground. So I'm gonna climb up here, pick up with the drifting branch, then climb up to the abutment wall for the LV, and I'll be home free to our starting point. Here we are back on the drifting. Turns out there's a trailblaze here. This is pretty much directly above the crossing. Wish I'd known that sooner, but now we know if we return. Which brings me to my next bit. If you'd like me to trace this drifting branch here that we accidentally stumbled upon, leave your feedback down below. If so, I'll probably add it to a summer list, get to it sometime during the summer, and we'll trace it in both directions, beyond more than what we can see on the maps, and see what's left of it. I'm coming. Surprised I'm in one piece. I don't know how you got here so fast. It took me quite a while. Gotta get this backpack off. It's killing my shoulders. I have a few things to explain to you. We'll do a time check last. But I am back in one piece. Safe and sound. Get a little closer to you. So after we had lunch, I basically backtracked the entire way, came to the abutment wall that we had trouble finding when I made the human error of going the wrong direction. So I came back to there, came down alongside of it and in front of it, just to look for some dates. I did film some footage, so I'm gonna roll that as we speak. I couldn't see any dates, just a flat-faced concrete wall with the lip, pretty featureless. But what was surprising is down below that, there were multiple large concrete columns. And not the big support columns like we've been seeing, these are more like footers for supporting either steel or most likely wood to hold up the bridge. So I saw probably at least a half a dozen of them, various sizes. Some were larger than others, some smaller, some were like really covered by nature. But they were basically leading right down to the creek in front of the big support column that we already saw. Along the entire route of that though, it was just littered with timbers. I did see a couple pieces of riveted metal. Looked like it's pretty old and thicker gauge. But a lot of ties, a lot of timbers. Some of it had hardware and nails sticking out of it. But some were just individually laying there. Some were connected to each other. So it leads me to believe with the amount of wood and timbers that I did see, I'm thinking that was a wooden trestle going across Sandy Run Creek, is it? Without knowing for certain though, I can only speculate based on what I found. I will say though, today I severely underestimated in more than one way. Not only the length of this journey, but the difficulty of having to cross the creek, then getting lost in the woods, and just how far it was to get to the other abutment wall. Looking at it on aerial images, you don't think it's that far. And yeah, I could have mapped it out with the distance, but again, I like to come into these with an open mind and just kind of see how it goes. And although I accomplished my goal, it was not without its difficulties. Crossing the creek wasn't fun. There's no way around it. It was cold. Halfway across, my feet became numb or tingling. Rocks were painful as they were like pushing into my feet. And by the time I came out the other side, my feet were beet red. But after I got the socks on, got moving again, it was fine. Then I had to climb that, well, I'm going to call Hell Mountain. It's one of the most difficult climbs I've ever had. The amount of thick, leafy material, there's some loose material underneath it, like stones and gravel, buried twigs. I slid and fell more than one time. If it wasn't for some trees I was holding on to, I would have slid probably the entire way down. Really got my heart going, worked up a good sweat. Took a lot out of me, but that was only part of, I should say, the beginning of the problem, where I thought I was going in the right direction to pick up the line again, and I was just kind of paralleling it and got severely off track and wasted a lot of time. All said and done though, we did do what we aimed to do, to reach the other abutment wall, to track the Hayes Creek branch. And I'm going to be honest, I did put my life at risk more than once. And the two times that come to mind is crossing the creek. Obviously I could have gotten hurt, could have fell in, could have got soaked with freezing cold water. Climbing the embankment, Mount Hell. If I fell down that, could have been really bad. And then crossing that braided steel rope going across the creek. Although it wasn't really high, it wasn't really long, it's something I haven't done before in modern times. I've done stuff like that as a kid, obviously at playgrounds, but to be, hanging over a fast-flowing, icy cold creek is a whole different experience. And I did it. I didn't get wet. Nerves were racing, heart was pumping, got the adrenaline going. But there were a few times where things could have went severely bad. And I'm by myself. I was in a pretty desolate area. There was a few times I had no cell service at all. So all I could say is that luck was on my side for the most part, besides my human error of getting off course. Everything else went as it's supposed to. I'm back in one piece. Feet are aching. That's to be expected. I think I put in close to 5 miles today. And I'd love to keep going on the other side of the road that we checked out in the beginning, but I believe it's on private property. But who knows what's hiding back there? There could be more remnants of the Hayes Creek branch. I'll have to do more digging on that. That may be an opportunity down the road. But as of right now, I don't think it is. But the Drifton branch, depending on your feedback, may be a future revisit for that. So let's see, we started just after 11 a.m. when I started filming here. It's now 4:30 on the dot. This was a lengthy one of my lengthier ones I've ever done. Was the reward worth it? Well, it depends on how you look at it. To me, or for me, it was. This is a line I want to document ever since I stumbled upon it on the bike trail. And I've always curious what's back there. It was even more inviting once I knew it was on public grounds, state game lands. But what's back here though, and left behind, is far and few between. I am pretty good at finding things and I'm being observant, and with how little I found, it was a bit disappointing. But I will say, the whole journey, the ups and downs, the highs and lows, figuratively and literally, made it worth it. You know, being out there by myself, spending a gorgeous Monday afternoon here, weather was on my side, and I feel like I made this video as intended, to bring you along, to feel like you were with me on this entire journey. I feel like if I left anything out, I wouldn't have done this location or this video justice. I kept in a lot of things, both frustration, exciting parts, confusing parts. There's a lot I didn't put in, obviously, or else we'd have like a 5-hour video. But needless to say, I feel accomplished, I feel satisfied, and I feel like I'm ready for another adventure. Hopefully you are as well. And the only thing I can ask you to do now is leave your feedback down below on what you thought of this adventure, what we documented of the Hayes Creek branch of the Lehigh Valley, and any insight you could give pertaining to questions I had or things I maybe had incorrect. By all means, fill myself in and the rest of the viewers down below. But otherwise, thanks so much for watching, and until next time, I'll see you in the next video. This is a nice place to kind of do your business. By the way, do any one of you have any reading material? I might be here for a while. I call this one the thinker. I call this one the stinker.